Hello and welcome to Exploring Digital Technologies at Bloomsburg University on the student-run radio station WHSK. This is Brian at Bloomsburg University. And on today's episode of this podcast, we're going to take a deeper look into social media. And we're looking at how students around me, like people around my age, are actually using social media, what they're using it for, and the impact that it's actually having on them, especially in a school setting. Now, a few of the questions that I'm going to ask my interviewees are: how often do they use social media? What do they use social media for? Does social media have any impact on them in school, for school? Do you use any social media for school specifically, or is it all just personal use? And lastly, do you think social media impacts students? Why or why not? And first up, we're going to interview my friend Jeremiah. Now, I chose him because he's in the same major as me, the media and communications. And I thought we might have some similar ideas in regards to these questions. So here you go.
I use social media pretty much every day. I don't think there's a day where I don't use social media, to be honest. I use social media for usually, entertainment, but I also am in a journalism program, so sometimes I do have to use it for my own research properties, or I gotta talk to somebody or communicate with somebody, so I also use social media for that. Does social media have any impact for school? I think it does, because actually you can rally people. I know my high school used to use it as rallying people together to do things. And also, it's also a great way to communicate to the students, because, sometimes you can't get to everybody over the loudspeaker, or now that we're in college, you kind of can't talk to everybody or send an email out to everybody and know they expect to, see it. But social media, you can tell them to follow social media page, keep updates. It's actually pretty convenient for school. Like I said, I use social media for school and personal use, because personally I do like to watch sports, entertainment, and all other things. But for school use, sometimes I have to interview somebody, or I have to research somebody, and even using their Facebook or Instagram is something I can use for my journalistic endeavors. But other than that, I can also use social media for quick facts and tips, and to keep up with my knowledge, so that also helps for school. I think social media impacts students however it chooses to, because some can see it as a distraction, but if you use it for a good purpose, it can actually enlighten your way of going about some things. I've had interviews with businesses that I got to, a mom and pop store, only because I had Instagram and I could get through their Instagram, so that was cool. But that was for a class thing. But I say in general, if you're using it for good, it's gonna be beneficial towards you. But if you're just bored and you're using it like that, it's not nothing wrong with it. But if you're not really taking it seriously, it's gonna show.
And once again, that was Jeremiah, my friend. And what I thought was very interesting is he really put emphasis that he uses it for journalism and stuff like that. And like I said before, he's in the same major as me, so I figured he would say something similar to that. Now, next up, I chose one of my friends. His name is Marcus, and I chose him because he's not in the same major as me, but his minor requires him to take some classes that are related to classes that I'm taking right now. So here goes Marcus.
I use social media every single day. I use it to bring humor into my life, not only to connect with my friends and family and such things, but to also stay updated with my current orgs on school and everything that's happening around me. Social media definitely has an impact on school. It is often used as a method of procrastination for me. Whenever I'm doing my assignments, I'll hop on Instagram or TikTok, and I'll occasionally miss an assignment because I was too carried away. Now I use social media for both social and for schoolwork. It's often helpful to have communication with other classmates as well through social media, so if I ever need help, I can contact them through that way. Social media definitely impacts students' lives, mostly due to the fact that it is a form of procrastination. It also hinders the ability to truly focus on your schoolwork and your personal life. But it does have a couple of benefits. For example, Penn State often posts updates on how the school's well-being is doing, and also updates on events around campus as well.
The thing that I found interesting about Marcus's interview was how he said social media can be a distraction, and it's a distraction to him, leads to him missing assignments and basically procrastinating on it. And that's a little bit similar to me using social media as well. All right, last up, I chose my friend Rylan, and I chose him because he's an outgoing person, and I want to see if his answers to these questions kind of reflect that in some type of way. But anyway, here go Rylan.
So for me personally, I don't use social media that often. I find myself using it more or less, when I have free time and I get bored and I'm not entirely sure what to do. Then I just open it and scroll through it. I use social media for the most part to just keep up with old friends who I don't see on a daily basis. Sometimes I use it to keep up with, some of the, artists that I listen to see when they're dropping music, or sometimes some movie releases, things like that, mainly just to keep up with people. I think it does have a little bit of impact on school, mainly more or less how people carry themselves at school, like what they're going to wear to school, to look good and things like that. I use social media for personal use though, not school use, just to keep up with people. Yeah, so I think that social media definitely impacts students. I think that it makes them a little bit more conscious of how they hold themselves in the public eye. I also think that there are plenty of ways that people can cheat on homework, and also for tests. But I also think that it's not necessarily impactful in a negative way, because people can prepare themselves for school in another way that some other people couldn't have done. Let's say that I had a friend who took a class that I'm in now. I can talk to them now through social media, and maybe they can help me out in ways that other people couldn't have helped me out at. Whereas now they can just hit me up and I can ask them questions based on was this class easy, give me some pointers in this class. And yeah, so I think it definitely does impact students.
And that was the last interview from Rylan. And what I found most interesting about that was towards the end, where he started talking about how it could really be helpful to talk to other people about different classes and help with classes, and mainly just stuff centered around that. In conclusion, I feel like social media is quite impactful on college students, whether they're using it for their own personal use or whether they're actually using it for school, because there's a bunch of different reasons you can use social media. And from the interviews that I did, it's quite helpful in school, and it can be good to use on your own personal reasons. And that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast, and stay tuned for the next one.